Tobias, hi.
Good to see you.
Thanks for your time. You look tired, but you are ready to give some commentaries. I have actually several questions concerning the so-called support of Ukraine from the West. You know, our last interview when we made in Bratislava, in Slovakia, several months ago, we touched the military support of Ukraine. You were very, very, very confident that the support would continue. However, now situation in Slovakia is different. We just came from Warsaw. The situation in Poland is different. So what we Ukrainians should anticipate from this situation, including what we see now happening in Ukraine, the biggest attacks of Russians against the civilians. So what we can see in the sense of support from West.
Well, you took time. Firstly, great to catch up with you again. So many aspects in your question. Firstly, what is the resolve of the West? How are we getting on the counteroffensive in Ukraine? And what are Putin's intentions? And you're right, that there seems to be, because we are heading towards what seems to be a frozen conflict. If you're not watching the details, it does look like things are stuck. And because of that, the West, I think, is getting frustrated. A lot of effort being poured in. Where's the change? And we're then seeing, I think, a testing of the will of some of the Eastern European countries, and Slovakia was the best example in the recent elections. What's going on in Poland too, and then further afield, Donald Trump. That's another dynamic to this. We have to factor that in. And then Putin too. I thought the last time we met, what happened with the Wagner Group would be quite instrumental in damaging Putin. First person ever in his 23 years to challenge, his entire power base. Tanks heading towards Moscow, and then the removal of 25,000 troops. This private army, the most capable, most confident, well-trained armed force in Ukraine, being removed from it. But ultimately, you're still left with this situation whereby the 10 kilometers worth of minefield and tank traps and so forth, very difficult to punch through. So the consequence of all that is people are now perhaps looking in the back of their mind, where's the off-ramp? Where's the way that we can get out of this? And that's my worry, is that this potentially could lead to giving up a part of the Donbass. That turns into a buffer zone. And then a deal is made to allow the rest of the Ukraine to join the EU, for example. And then we all go home and then pretend nothing's really happened. Now, we know this is not what Russia does. Their expansion of the motherland is such that they will want to dominate ever further. They'll rearm, regroup, and do something all again in a couple of years' time. Go back to 2008 with Georgia and so on. Not only that, you have what's going on in the Black Sea, where they want to weaponize this and own that space too. What are they going to do when the Arctic melts as well? They're going to claim that territory too. So this is all a wake-up call as to a wider picture of just strategic change that is taking place that we've really not really woken up to, and why it's so important for us to remain committed to put this fire out in Ukraine.
You know that some experts believe that next year the conflict can be frozen, but this conflict was frozen 10 years ago, and next year, on the February, there will be 2 years of the full-scale invasions, the anniversary, unfortunately, and the 10 years of the annexation of Crimea and the hybrid destabilization of Donbass. So how we can collect and keep on supporting this unity, if it is, of Westworld against the Russia? Because I think the next step, theoretically, Putin could do in Kazakhstan, in Georgia, in Lithuania. So how we can be more unanimous, more collective, actually, in the supporting of Ukraine?
Well, I think the difference in the various scenarios that you have illustrated is that this most recent, from the February, the invasion of Ukraine proper,
full scale,
has been the scale of support from the international community. The sanctions that have been imposed, everything from the NLAWs to the training of Ukrainian troops, main battle tanks, missiles, and now F-16s. So there's another scale of this which we should recognize. The question we should ask ourselves, the West, is why is it taking so long to be so hesitant to ratchet up the necessary support? If we are serious about allowing Ukraine to win, let's give everything that's required, win quickly, win fast. And at the moment, we're too hesitant. And because of our hesitance, Putin is able to take advantage of that. And because we're not making progress on the battlefield, people are getting impatient. And without thinking of the consequences of where this takes Russia into the longer term, and indeed the Russia-China access, which is another dynamic to all this. So we really need to focus firstly on greater military support, but I think in tandem to that needs to be an economic strategy. And for that, I'm speaking specifically about the grain. We've realized in retrospect how vital grain exports are in Ukraine for not just Europe, but Africa and elsewhere. Now, we're talking about international maritime waters here, not a sovereign state, and yet the international community is not wanting to defend those waters. We need a maritime patrol protection zone, if you like, to allow those grain ships, which is, from a humanitarian basis, are required to keep people alive in Africa, Egypt, and Somalia and elsewhere, Libya, as well as keep the grain price down, the food prices down in the rest of Europe. Why haven't we done that? So yes, let's focus more on the military, but in tandem to that, let's get an economic plan going as well.
You know that I remember your words during our last interview for all my life when you said that Ukraine should be integrated to some kind of new geostrategic security union. I always repeated these words to a lot of people in Europe, in Ukraine. And you did not you did not say specifically what kind of union. And I understand this is geostrategical thing. However, if we analyze what is going on now, a lot of people say that we should wait the next elections in the US and then in other country. In your country, in UK, how the support of Ukraine is sincere, and could be such kind of situation that Ukraine can be hostage of such kind of circumstances, political situation, or no? Or UK is very, very strong and without any doubts will continue to support Ukraine?
I hope it's the latter, that we will continue to support Ukraine, but we can't do it all alone. And therefore there is a time bar. We need to recognize that there will be an impatience to get this done. But with that, as I stress, if we are impatient, then let's give you the necessary tools you need, not just the long-range precision missiles, but also the engineering skills to get through the minefields. That's absolutely critical for that to happen. And then the air protection too. We have to remember that you are fighting the war for Europe. And I think that gets lost sometimes as we are expecting the counteroffensive to have reached, on the other side of the Donbass by now. And the security blanket that you require, the best result would be NATO, but that's not going to happen soon. Look at Sweden. It's now been delayed even further. There is something called the Joint Expeditionary Force, JEF as it's called. And that's like-minded nations, mostly the Baltics, that look after the high north. And for me, that would be the obvious stepping stone into NATO. For you and Poland, I would suggest joining at the same time for that. And I hope that's something that Ukraine might pursue.
My last question concerning the military tactics of Russia, because you are professional military, you can foresee what they could do. What I see now in Ukraine, especially in Kiev, they use different tactics with the drones, with the missiles to hit mostly the energy sector. But today they killed a lot of people during the attacks near Kupiansk, in Kharkiv region. What are the military tactics of Russia during the next 6 months? How you see it?
I don't see them very much changing. I think what they're going to try to do is to hold the line and prevent any attrition. But at the same time, I think they want to wear down the Ukrainian people. And as winter approaches, they will then start target your infrastructure, your strategic, your critical national infrastructure, the heating, oil, gas, electricity, that sort of thing, railway lines. That is where I think this war is going to go. My worry is that if you start to make progress on the battlefield, that Putin could go ugly. He has shown this in Syria, quite happy to use chemical weapons, for example, because he has now made this so critical that he can't lose. Wagner burst the bubble in the secrecy of how badly the war was going. He made his big complaint. Putin, you're not giving me the weapons I need, and look where that ended. So everybody doesn't believe the myths anymore on national state television that this war is going well. Everybody knows it's going badly. But if he gets a stalemate, is able to secure some part of Ukraine, he'll be able to dress that up as a success. So all the more important that we're able to make progress. But we should then be very aware and concerned that he could then stoop to a very, very low place to try and turn that around.
Thank you for your forecast, political, geopolitical, military. Thank you for your support of your country, of your nation, personally support of my people. And I think together we'll reach our common victory. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.